Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Hope. I'm Kirsten Hagland here with my unofficial co-host, Miss Elsa. I'm feeling very, very excited to welcome you to a special Friday edition of Weekly Hope. So as we kind of just wait for people to sign on and to join the show, I'll take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about what the show is all about, what you can expect before I introduce our guest and we dive into our topic for today. So Weekly Hope is a show that Eating Disorder Hope started in May of this year, and we welcome and interview experts from the field of eating disorders, but not only clinicians and other behavioral health experts, but also people who work in nonprofits, people who are advocates for mental health, those who have their own recovery stories, people doing campaigns to raise awareness of eating disorders and mental health issues, people just from across the spectrum of eating disorders and mental health, to get them on here, to have them share their stories, to tell us what they're working on, and of course to ask them interesting and questions to find out what it is they're all about, what they're doing, and how we can get involved. And of course to have them share their insight, wisdom, and experience with all of you. So we really want this to be educational, inspirational, informative, and conversational. So really, obviously, that's what's so wonderful about doing this on Facebook Live, is that it's not just me and our guest talking, and Elsa sitting here sleeping in my lap as she does each time, but it's really about welcoming you and inviting you into the conversation. We know that eating disorders are not monolithic. Obviously, everyone's experience is so different, and everyone has a voice and an experience to share. And so we want to hear that. We want to hear from you. Also, we want to give you the opportunity to have, we have had the honor of having some really, really incredible guests, and we do as well today. And just want to give you the opportunity to ask them questions, share what's on your heart, let them know your experience, ask the question that maybe has been in the back of your mind for a really long time and you haven't had the opportunity to ask someone. Ask it here. This is a safe place for you. We want to be supportive, and we have these great guests who give their time, and they're here for you. So make sure to make sure that you ask those questions if you have them. So throughout the show, let us know where you're signing in from. Say hello. Let us know your name in the comments section, where you're signing in from. It's always really cool to see where people are signing in from, because we usually get guests in from all over the world. We've had, I'm sitting here in Zurich, Switzerland, but we've had people from Europe, obviously from the United States, where Eating Disorder Hope is based. But Africa, Asia, we've had Nepal and India at one point, South America. So we get people watching from all over the world. So let us know where you're signing in from. We would absolutely love to hear from you. South Africa as well. We've got a woman who joins us weekly from South Africa. So let us know where you're signing in from. We would absolutely love to hear from you. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest. There she is on the other side of the screen there. So we are welcoming Ashlee Benson today. She is the clinical director at Canopy Cove. And Ashlee, are you joining us from Florida today?
I am from Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay, wonderful. Because I know Canopy Cove, you guys are located in Florida, right?
Yes, we are. We're in the state capital. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wonderful. And already we've got someone saying hello. We've got Sarah. Hello from Australia. Sarah, it's so great to see you again. Sarah joins us quite frequently, and so thank you so much for saying hello and joining us again. So Ashlee, to start out, before we dive in, because we're going to talk about the holidays and how to handle all of that goodness and stress, but before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about Canopy Cove and your role there?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So Canopy Cove is a residential eating disorder treatment center here in Tallahassee, Florida. And we have been in Tallahassee for 30 years. We're a Christian-based treatment center, so we allow clients to really have an opportunity to not only be able to utilize evidence-based practices, but also be able to incorporate their faith or their spirituality into the treatment process, and with the belief and knowledge that full recovery is possible from the eating disorder, that it doesn't have to be a lifelong condition that someone is struggling with. But but that with the right treatment and resources, that they can come to a place of freedom and healing. And we have certainly experienced that with so many of our clients. And so we love what we do. I serve as the clinical director, so I supervise all of our clinical staff, run the programs. By trade, I'm a registered dietitian as well, so I have spent the majority of my career doing nutrition therapy for eating disorders, and so that's really my heart, my passion is being able to navigate a lot of these situations that we're probably going to be talking about today when it comes to just working on normalizing someone's relationship with food. And the holidays are, I think, one of those instances where you're forced to put that into practice and look at, utilizing a lot of those skills and resources that treatment team members or loved ones, maybe sharing. So I'm certainly excited to get to be here and chat with everyone for a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for giving us a little window into what you guys do there. And just also want to let all of you know, if you're watching this, that Canopy Cove is an incredible partner of ours here at Eating Disorder Hope. And we've got a ton of articles from the last 2 months from authors at Canopy Cove on the website on eatingdisorderhope.com. So if you go to Eating Disorder Hope and you search Canopy Cove, you'll be able to see all the articles that that their staff have been contributing for us over the last 2 months. And obviously their expertise is really incredible. So you can absolutely feel free to go and on the site and read a ton of what they've been writing and contributing to Eating Disorder Hope for the last couple of months. So first I want to talk, before we talk about how to cope with the holidays as they come about, especially in the next few weeks here as we're in like major go time. I was thinking earlier today about, how difficult it is, not only for those who are in recovery and they're home, but for those who are in treatment during the holidays, because there are people who are at a residential treatment center during this time, during this period, and how difficult that can be. So first, I'd love to hear from you, like what happens, for example, at Canopy Cove for the women that are there during the holidays? And then how can a loved one, either a family member or a friend, best support someone who's maybe spending Christmas or New Year's in a treatment center?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're spot on to recognize that it's such a challenge. I think at any point during the year to make that decision to pursue treatment, but certainly around the holidays when it's I think most people characterize that time as being family oriented or spending time with loved ones and having all of those gatherings of people coming together. But for so many of those who are actively struggling with the eating disorder, those can be some of the most anxiety provoking times for them too. So I think for many of them, they see being able to come into treatment and develop that safe space is kind of a safe haven from some of those situations that they may not be comfortable with managing on their own without more help. But in terms of the holidays, at Canopy Cove, and I'm sure at other facilities as well, our goal is to begin to normalize that process. We don't want to avoid it. We don't pretend like it's not happening. We are active in creating tradition with the clients, as well as celebrating and honoring traditions that they're used to within their family. So they all get to contribute something to our holiday that we create as kind of a family ourselves. That's everything from planning and creating their holiday meals, and allowing us to be a part of family traditions that are known to them, because we want it to feel like home as best we can, but we also want to give them the opportunity to maybe have a peaceful and enjoyable holiday for the first time in a long time. So allowing their fellow clients, allowing our staff to provide an environment that is joyful and allows them, the safety to experiment with some of these traditions that maybe they've avoided with their family for a long time. So we have fun, around the holidays here. that's our goal is, we want to celebrate that time and celebrate what the season is about, and and give them that positive memory that then hopefully the next time they experience a holiday moment at home, they're prepared for it, and they can look back fondly on their time with us, and look at ways that they survived that, even though they were in a treatment experience.
So, well, like my first thought is, oh, it must be so hard to be away from family members or friends during the holidays. But at the same time, like you mentioned, it also might be the first holiday that they're experiencing where they don't maybe have the stress or anxiety of the food situations, and they can actually work through the holiday in, feeling or traditions with support.
Yes, because as much as those, even those who may be struggling with an eating disorder want to be home and often have such strong connections to family, what we know is that the eating disorder disrupts any positivity in their life, and really taints those opportunities to experience joy in its fullest. And so oftentimes, being able to be separate from those experiences, with us, allow them the opportunity, like you said, to process through those experiences, those struggles, those anxieties, while also being able to kind of be able to practice what it's like to have a holiday, and maybe plan and prepare a holiday meal and celebrate tradition among other people. Those components, the added support, but they're also getting to experience a holiday that may not be exactly as it would be in their home environment, but we aim to emulate it the best we can.
Yeah. And how can family members or friends support someone who is away, perhaps in treatment during the holidays?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I think a lot of that is maintaining positive communication with them. That's so important. Sometimes that may be by actually being able to come and visit and partake in some of those holiday traditions at the treatment facility. But just continuing to encourage and to validate the work that they're doing, I think is so important. Because there's a mixture of feelings around the holiday for those who are in treatment. Even if they know they need to be here, there is still that that heartbreak or homesickness. And so for families, it's validating that, but also being hopeful for the day when their loved one does come back and they're whole again, and the eating disorder is not following them back home. So I think looking at those ways to encourage verbally and being there emotionally, and then maybe sometimes looking at is it possible to be there physically as well, to give a little added boost, a little added support during that time. And again, we've had many families spend their holiday with us, and again, it's just a way that they're that they're creating a new holiday tradition for themselves. So it's you can always make it work. I think no matter what situation it is, there's a way to find a positive silver lining in it all, and I think that's the case for family members too.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of, okay, so now transitioning to, let's say someone is in recovery and they're home for this holiday season. First of all, can you describe for people who, maybe there are people watching this now or going to be watching later, who they're trying to support someone, but they have no window into what it's like for someone with an eating disorder as they try to, or are in recovery, just the plethora of triggers and craziness that the holidays can provoke. Can you just kind of like set the scene for someone who has no window into what this is like, what the holidays might be like for someone in recovery?
Sure, sure. So I think everyone can relate to some of the anxiety and the pressure, the busyness, the hustle and bustle. I think everyone can probably sit in that space and go, I've experienced that before. But when someone is struggling with an eating disorder, it's kind of like you've put that into overdrive. And the holidays are so often about that time together. And in our society and in most, it's shared around a table, and it's sometimes it's food, and the focus is on sometimes seeing family members that you only see once or twice. We all have that family member who might just not be as conscientious in the things they say and they do. And so while someone without an eating disorder may be able to accept those moments for what they are and move on, someone who is actively within the eating disorder is very much tormented 24/7 emotionally and mentally. There's just kind of that onslaught of critical thinking, of just anxiety and indecisiveness when it comes to food, and the fear that is attached to food, and sometimes eating in front of people, just navigating those decisions of what to eat, what not to eat, how much, what do I do afterwards? How do I sit with these feelings? And that is 24/7 thought process. And so they're never getting a break from that. And so I think that's what people don't always see, is someone may put on a brave face, but inside they are really tormented by all of these decisions, and quite often trying to hide all of that from others. So doing their best to present in one way, but really suffering inside, because they're not able to really articulate what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and they may not have kind of a safe person that they trust in that environment that can kind of navigate that whole experience for them.
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing to point out, and good for us all to remember that, just because someone is not saying it, or it doesn't seem to you like they're struggling with something, whether it's an eating disorder or around this season, just because someone's not saying something or it doesn't seem like it, doesn't mean that people aren't struggling deeply. And that it's important, I think, it was a good reminder for me just now as I was listening to you, that you just never know what other people are going through. So, at all times, especially if you don't know people very well, like, be positive, be encouraging. Don't make comments about your body or others, or your plate or others. Let's try to keep the conversations positive and uplifting and edifying as much as possible, because you just never have any idea what people are going through, especially if you haven't seen them in a year, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder, because like you said, it could be any struggle, any circumstance that someone may be experiencing or going through, and the slightest comment, the slightest statement that is off center can really disrupt someone's recovery and just their ability to make healthy choices in that moment. And what for someone, for another person may just kind of slide right off your back, for someone with an eating disorder, that may be, a statement that really sticks with them and that they ruminate on, and really creates a lot of uncomfortable thoughts and feelings towards themselves. So you just have to be aware, you have to be sensitive, and like you said, just being kind, being positive, and really focusing on the experience with one another, and really bringing joy to that holiday moment. But unfortunately, I think even amongst families, it can be quite stressful, moments that you're spending together.
Yeah, it's all about managing expectations, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think too, like, how can we manage expectations not only of situations that we're going into, but of other people and the way that they will react or respond? because everyone's not going to, there's ways that ideal ways that we wish people would react or respond, or things we wish they would say, but it doesn't always happen that way. So how can a person in recovery manage those expectations? Or what can they do when the situation is far from the ideal?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think some of that comes with pre-planning. I think for anyone who is going into the holidays with, in a place of recovery and navigating that, you have to have a strategy. And because I think right now going into the holiday blindly potentially sets you up to be thrown off guard by those statements or comments or just a situation that was not what you anticipated it to be. So for those who have treatment team members that are at home, I always encourage our clients to communicate those concerns. Let's process through the what ifs, because it's really important to have a plan in place. And so whether that's your treatment team professionals or you've developed a strong support network of individuals that you feel like you can navigate those concerns with and who can offer some perspective, I think is really important, because then you're setting yourself up for more success in that holiday gathering or that work social, whatever the situation is. A lot of people in recovery struggle with spontaneity. And so just throwing yourself into that holiday event is probably not going to be the best choice. But if we can have a plan, then we're much more likely to follow through with that plan. And that plan will also have action steps. What do we need to do, when we become anxious or uncomfortable? What is our next step to remove ourselves from that situation?
Yeah. And can I ask you a question, Ashlee, because I get this question frequently and I've handled it in different ways, but what do you say to the person, or how do you respond to the person who makes a comment about your weight? Mm-hmm. Like either something like, "Oh, you look so healthy," or pats you somewhere where maybe they shouldn't be touching you, right? And or like, "You look so strong," or maybe even in a negative way says something like, "Oh, well, you sure do look like you've been putting on weight," mm-hmm. or something like that. That is just obviously makes people like you and me go.
Right, it makes you cringe.
Yeah. What do you actually say? Like, how should someone actually respond to that? Should they make that an educational moment? Should they just go, "Thank you"? What does someone in that specific situation do? How do you handle that person?
Well, I don't know that I don't think there's one correct answer, to it. I think sometimes it's knowing the other individual. If it's a family member or someone that you have some sort of relationship with already, I think a teaching moment could be nice. If it's someone where, a lot of times at these holiday events, it is people you don't know, or it is spouses and, of people. And in those moments, I think sometimes just accepting, if they intended it to be a compliment, accepting that for what it is, but also then probably removing yourself from getting further into a conversation, that is focused on your body or your weight, because many times people will make those comments having no idea the backstory that someone has, and then again, it's crazy aunt so and so or uncle so and so who just doesn't know and may never fully be able to grasp the depth of what's going on. So I think sometimes it's just acknowledging it for what it is, but also acknowledging the source it's coming from. And so if you have people that you know and that you trust, you have a team, you have support people who are offering you truth and offering you information about what's really going on and where you're really at in your recovery, then I think you have to recognize that, just my neighbor, my coworker, my aunt may not be the source of truth. And so therefore I don't need to base my actions and how I treat myself on that one statement that was made.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's excellent advice. Thank you. And I just want to point out, we got Sarah. Sarah Glover says hello from Seattle. Hi, Sarah. Great to have you back. So glad you're with us. So Ashlee, I'd love to ask you too. I told you I was going to ask you this before we came on. It's something that I've heard from people who have overcome binge eating disorder and are, in recovery or fully recovered, and have talked about. See, on Wednesday we talked about the idea of all foods fit, and being able to celebrate recovery and being able to eat and enjoy foods across the spectrum. Obviously, there are exceptions for things like food allergies and such, but that all foods fit in a healthy lifestyle. And yet, in talking to some people who've recovered from binge eating disorder, that there are sometimes foods that they do for their own health's sake, they've decided to abstain from for the rest of their lives, similar to how an alcoholic would abstain from alcohol for the rest of their life. That was their decision to be healthy in recovery. What is, as a dietitian, your view on that? Is that healthy? Is that not? And how do you go about that then during the holidays when sometimes you're not, most of the time, you're not in control of the menu?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in terms of just kind of overarching philosophy, what I have always embraced, and what Canopy Cove embraces as well, is what's called a recovery-based model in the treatment of eating disorders. And so that encompasses not only just the belief that full recovery is possible and the hope for a future without the eating disorder, but also acknowledging that the eating disorder is not about food. It's not about any of those kind of surface issues, but it's a manifestation of unresolved issues or critical core beliefs that have been over time, and food becomes the vessel that the eating disorder uses. And so if we don't begin to address the fears and the uncertainties that are around, whatever the list of foods is that's deemed, unsafe or unhealthy, if we don't allow exposure work to that, then my belief would be there's always a window of opportunity for the eating disorder to become active again, because that's a reflection that there's likely some unresolved issues if there's not that freedom to experience all foods. It doesn't mean that that you must have those foods all the time, or there's a balance of what you feel comfortable having and in the frequency, but I do believe there is that opportunity to experience all foods, and that simply having a food that may have in the past been reflective of the eating disorder or misused within the eating disorder, that doesn't automatically have to set someone up to re-engage in the eating disorder if they're really addressing what's underneath all of that.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. And also it takes away the power from the food.
Yes.
Because it doesn't have
Absolutely.
the power. We have the power. The last kind of question, and I just and Sarah says foods or meals can trigger, and yes, they can. But as we've been discussing, there's lots of ways to pre-plan so that when the trigger does come, we don't have to respond to it in the way that maybe we formerly had been, or in a way that's abusive to our bodies and to our souls. And so I have one last question, and just want to make sure that I tell our viewers who are watching, if you've got a last question you want to ask for Ashlee, let us know as we wrap up here. But for someone who, let's say, someone does have a really bad day during this holiday season, maybe it's Christmas Eve, maybe it's Christmas, sometime in between New Year's Eve, and they feel like they ate too much, that they overate, or they binged, or they restricted. Now they're depressed and anxious, or they realize, hey, I have been abusing exercise because of my fear and anxiety about food. Something in the recovery that they feel like I'm failing this season, what encouragement can you give them?
Well, that there's always and recognizing that in recovery we what we know to be true about the eating disorder recovery is that it's not linear. It is ups and downs, turns, and so that does not have to distance recovery, and so there's going to be hard day meals or times where they feel as though they allow the eating disorder more power in the day and more control than they would have wanted. But there's also that opportunity for the very next meal, the very next snack, to make a healthy choice and go, I know what is right, I know what is true, and I'm going to choose to disobey the eating disorder and do what's right for me. And so there's, in life in general, we all have those moments, and it's about reminding ourselves that ever the struggle may be, that the struggle defining moment with it. So if you have that lapse moment, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to learn from it, learn from the situation that may have produced those uncomfortable feelings that led to the behaviors? Or are we going to just sit and dwell in it and allow the eating disorder to manifest? You have that choice, because like you said, you're taking back the power from the eating disorder. So you have the power. How that event is going to influence the rest of your day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month, and again, reach out to those people around you who are trusted people. If you're blessed with a treatment team, or it's loved ones, it's assist you in navigating this journey, because no one goes through it alone. And we continue to encourage our clients to remember that there's no judgment and you need help, and so allowing people to assist and you continue in your recovery.
Yeah, I think is Ashlee frozen? There we go. Okay, you're back. Good. Wonderful. Well, Ashlee, thank you so much for joining us. It was really wonderful to have your wisdom and your expertise and some very, very, very helpful tips for this holiday season and navigating that. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and just for doing what you're doing, by allowing an opportunity for all of us to have the conversation and learn from one another, and hopefully encourage each other throughout this holiday season. So thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you, Ashlee, so much. I'm going to say goodbye to you and then say goodbye to everyone else. So thank you so much. We'll pop her off here, and I'll just say,
hey.
I want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for watching. If you're just now joining us, of course, as soon as this video ends, you can go back and watch the beginning and watch all the good stuff that Ashlee had to say. We are going to have one, maybe two more episodes of Weekly Hope before we reach the end of the month and the end of this holiday season. So lots more to talk about in the way of prepping and doing recovery well throughout the holidays. And I just want to say from myself, from Elsa, and all of us here at Eating Disorder Hope that we believe in you, and we know this can be a stressful time, but we also just hope that you enjoy it and find the relationships, the people, the experiences to fill you with joy and love and gratitude this holiday season. We're here for you. That's why we've got so many things, videos and Facebook Lives and articles focused on how to stay strong in recovery this holiday season, so we can support you as best as we possibly can. So feel free to just eat up all those resources, keep them on your phone, keep them, internet browser, keep looking and scrolling through positive body positive and recovery positive accounts on things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Just keep that recovery positivity all around you throughout this holiday season, so you are just overwhelmed and flooded with it, so that it helps to keep you strong. You're not weak for reaching out for help, and you are not alone throughout this holiday season. Just know that we're here for you. We believe in you. We know that you can stay strong throughout this. And even if you do slip, and even if you do feel like you failed, that it's just about doing that next turnaround, just like Ashlee said, and making the next right choice at the next meal or the next snack. We know you can do this. We're here with you. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out to us for help. Obviously, we've got some great articles there I put in the comment section from Canopy Cove and their website. You can reach out to them as a resource as well. But just know that there are a lot of us out here that are rooting for you and know that you can do this. And so we are proud to stand with you throughout this season. So let's make it one of joy and positivity, and above all, grace for others and for ourselves. So, all right. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. We're wishing you lots of love, peace, and joy this season. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Living Hope. All right.